Hey guys, Chris here, we're giving Busted Knuckle. Y'all saw the tank on this thing in a previous video. Can't takes no more. Let me show you how to fix it on the cheap. Let's get wrenching.
Oh hell, I can fix that. Honey! Can you bring me a Band-Aid, please?
Alright guys, you saw this tank in some of my other videos. I just pulled it off the bike. I sprayed it down with aircraft stripper. It's about to thunderstorm on me, so we're going to let this set for a few minutes, and then we'll scrape it, and I'll get back to you, and then we'll go over what we got to do to bring the paint back up and make it look like a gas tank again. Alright, so the stripper did a pretty fair job, and it's probably good enough for our purposes, but we're going to go ahead and put one more pass of it on here to say we did. Let's see if we can blister up just a little more of this old black paint, and then we're going to give it a bath with a hose here and get it washed off so we can get those chemicals off of it, and then we're going to sand it and start painting. Alright guys, so that's after the second pass of the stripper, and that's fine for what we're doing because the idea of the stripper is just to save us a bunch of sanding, which it did. It saved us a lot here. So anyway, let's grab the orbital sander and our sandpaper and go to work. Alright, now that we've given this thing a bath and made it reasonably safe to handle by hand, because I don't do gloves that often, we've got our orbital sander set up with 80 grit sandpaper, and we're going to go to town. No wet sanding or anything on this first pass. We're going to remove the bulk of this black paint with this 80 grit. So anyway, I'm going to get to sanding, and then I'll come back with you and show you what we got. Alright guys, that's one pass with the 80 grit, so we're going to go up on this to about 120, and then probably 320 after that, just to get it ready to paint. But yeah, pretty much we're ready to go here. Let's get that 120 and give it a go. And alright guys, so that's been done with, of course, the 80 grit, then 150, then 220, then 320. It's ready to go. We're going to wipe it off with a tack cloth, and the reason you do this is to remove contaminants and things like that that may mess with your paint. And then we're going to go at it with a new base coat. Sorry I moved into the garage and the light stinks, but it's thunderstorming outside. So anyway, let's get this thing wiped down and we'll get a base coat on it. Alright, so we hit it with the tack cloth, and look at all the crap that came off of there, guys. That's why you wipe it down with a tack cloth to remove those contaminants. Now, for the sake of this, again, we're working on the cheap here, guys. We're trying to get this done for like 30 bucks. So, today we're going to be using this. This is Glidden Max Flex All Service Ultra Durable Finish. Flawless, dries in 5 minutes, no drips or streaks, gloss black. Okay, never used it. Didn't even know Glidden made spray paint. They make great household paints. So, hey, we're going to give it a crack. Let's get a base coat on this thing. So, in further prep, the only thing I did was cover up the fuel fill area here with a little duct tape. So we're going to get some black paint on this thing and see how it goes. Alright guys, so I put a couple of coats of this on here, and there's a couple of things about this, again, Glidden Max Flex that we should note. Okay, the pressure down on the nozzle was a little heavier than I like, but holy crap. This stuff, it says it dries in 5 minutes, and that's not a joke. This paint has only been on there for about 2, and there's no paint on my fingers. Now, just to prove that, guys, I'm going to let the camera run. I'm going to put another coat on this thing, and then I'm going to come back and touch it about 2 minutes after I get it on. So we're going to shake this up. We're going to go to town here. Anyway, here we go. And this lays on super thin, guys, like almost like an automotive finish out of a gun, which is something that I'm kind of familiar with. So, thus far, very impressed with the Glidden rattle can paint, because holy cow, I've never found anything that actually acts like real automotive paint. Sorry, I gotta switch hands. Like, again, the can is very heavy to spray. So you notice I'm going at it and then overlapping those spray patterns. And hopefully you can see on here I've got a good heavy wet coat on it. And because it's dry so fast, I have no problems putting coat after coat right on top of each other. And this is just the first can. We're going to put a second one on it. Just to demonstrate this. But again, I'm going to leave the camera run here, guys. I'll probably time-lapse it out, but I'm going to let that dry for about 3 or 4 minutes. And then I'm going to come back and actually put my fingers in it, just so you know that this stuff dries super, super fast. Way to go, Glidden. Hey, this has been on here for about 2 minutes, and literally only about 2 minutes. So what I'm going to do, please note the tips of my fingers are very clean here. I'm going to hit it right here. Now, any other gloss spray paint in the world, I'd have huge black blobs on my fingers. So just, you guys saw me do this. There's no paint on my fingers. This stuff dries incredibly fast, at least to a tack where you can put your next coat on. So anyway, I'm going to continue to base coat this thing out, and then what we're going to do when it sets up for a few days, we're going to go ahead and buff this off with like 800 grit paper to get it really smooth, and then we're going to put the clear coat on it and buff it out, and we should have an absolutely beautiful tank. Alright guys, so it's a couple days later, so I put the clear on, and then I wet sanded the clear with 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, and 2,500 grit sandpaper. So now we're going to get the buffer out. It looks very flat and kind of a gray color. I'm sorry, the light kind of stinks in here. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just buff a small patch of it, and it's going to look like a freaking mirror. And so, you know, that's how you do it. Anyway, let me do that, and I'll get right back to you. All right, guys, so there's just one pass with a buffer on the top surface of the tank, and you can see the reflection is great. It's nice and smooth. And if you look over here, hopefully it shows on camera, you can clearly see kind of the flat and kind of that cut line. See it right along here? Where it has been buffed versus where it hasn't. So anyway, I'm going to keep on with the buffing, and then I'll bring you guys back when I'm ready to put the decals on it. Like I said, you can see here, not buffed, versus there is buffed. So yeah, very pleased with that. So anyway, I'm going to keep buffing. I'll bring you back when I'm ready to put the decals on it and get it back on the bike. All right, guys, the buffing is all done, and look at that. That's rattle can paint, guys. Look at the reflection in that. It's absolutely beautiful. Very, very, very pretty. Clearly see it's like a mirror. Looks great. Okay, so again, this is the rattle can paint, and we let it set for about 3 days. I like to let my rattle can paint especially set and harden up, because clear coat has a higher reduction rate, meaning there's more thinner in it than base colors, and if you put it on too soon, it often blisters and eats the base color off, and we didn't want that. Look at that reflection. Isn't that awesome? So the black paint set for 3 days, and then I sanded it down with 800 grit just to prep it, put the clear on, let it set for a couple of days, and then wet sanded and buffed it. And again, we started with 1,500 grit paper, went to 2,000, 2,500, and then finished it with 3,000 grit paper, and then buffed this out with my buffing wheel. Now, we used 3 different products and 2 different wheels. Let's take a look. So if we swing around here, the initial buff was the Meguiar's Mirror Glaze #1, and you can see it's a on a little scale here, it's a pretty aggressive paste. You got to be very careful with that, especially with black, because you can burn it. So just take your time and go slow. For the second pass, again, with the wool pad, we use the 205, and it's a lot more forgiving. Takes out some more swirls. And in our final pass, we use the 3M Perfected 3 paste with a foam buffing pad. And just this, you can just sit there and kind of work it all day. It's a very kind of liquidy polish, and it really does a great job getting those scratches and swirls out of it. So, but yeah, just to go show you guys what you can end up with a, you know, a few hours work and $30. Anyway, let's get the badges on it and get it back on the bike. Yeah, guys, as you can see, it's back on the bike. We put the new badges on it, and it looks great. Let me see if I can move you in here. Sorry for the wobbles. But that just looks super, super great. You can see the shine in that tank, the reflections of the tree limbs, everything like that. The only thing we're going to do now is put a hard paste wax, like a good carnauba, on top of that to help protect it, and we'll be good to go. Yeah, guys, little dirty, but look at the result. All right, so this process actually took about a week. We've had some really crappy weather. I apologize for that, having to move into the garage with bad lighting and things like that. However, so it was pretty simple. We removed the tank, we put the stripper on it, we sanded it down to the bare metal. Then we went on ahead and shot our base coat on. And with rattle can paint, guys, I like to let it set for at least 3 days. It's springtime in Virginia. And I found that 3 days is normally enough. The reason I let it set that long is because clear coat has a higher reduction rate, meaning that it has more thinner in it than the base colors. And if you put it on too soon, it tends to wrinkle the base coat and blister it up almost like a paint stripper would. So always, when working with rattle cans, let that base coat set for a few days. Don't get in a rush. So after the base coat is set for a few days, I knocked it back with 800 grit sandpaper, put the clear coat on, let it set for a day, wet sanded and buffed, and look at the result. That looks absolutely phenomenal, guys. 30 bucks. You just can't go wrong with that for a rattle can paint job. Now, I know there are wise body and paint guys out there going, no, Chris, that's not how you do that. But hey, on the cheap, on a budget, look at the result. It looks great. Nothing to be ashamed of here. The new badges look cool. We've got our new speedometer face on. So next time, we're going to tackle this seat. I'm going to show you how to get that taken care of. And then, hey, what the heck? Maybe we'll even take it for a ride. Who knows? But, yeah, no, guys, I hope you enjoyed this and you got something out of it. This is a way to get things done pretty inexpensively if you don't mind a little bit of that old-fashioned elbow grease. Guys, if you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe button. Turn on all notifications, as we got a lot of cool content coming up for you that I think is going to be really helpful and that you're going to enjoy. As always, guys, in the description box below, I'll put links to our Facebook page and our email address if you want to drop us a line. Till next time, this is Chris for Busted Knuckle DIY saying, keep wrenching.